Hello dear time travellers and welcome to the Geek Round Summary. I'm Eric Gallagher and this week I'll be talking about science fiction and fantasy books in a segment I'm calling the Geek In Books. In the spotlight this week is Jonathan Haley's Konrad Curze, The Night Hunter. It's set in the Warhammer 40k universe, which is owned by Games Workshops. For those of you unfamiliar with Warhammer 40k, the series and franchise is absolutely massive. From tabletop games to animated movies to video games, there is an expanse of content to be explored. It might take you a while to figure out what's actually going on, but typically genetically altered humans, or space marines as they're called, are at war with aliens and monsters and demons of all kinds in the 41st millennium, set out in the far reaches of space. Konrad Curze's story is different from your typical 40k story, as it plays out the main character's account of what has come before. Dan Abnett's Brotherhood of the Snake, or any of the game source books, are a good starting place to get more familiar with the universe first. As for Konrad Curze, the book is absolutely brilliant. It's full of dark imagery and dark, disturbing humour. It's kind of grotesque and unsettling. There are moments of fear and just bizarre way of storytelling. The book reads like a Shakespearean soliloquy where Konrad Curze is speaking to his father in a small dark room. What I'm kind of meant to say here now is, by speaking to his father, I mean he is gibbering and ranting out to a meat puppet made from his victim's flesh in the shape of his father. Yeah, it's actually pretty tongue-in-cheek as well when you actually reading it and you're seeing how he's sculpting the body and he's sculpting the statue to try and make it look like his father, the Emperor of Mankind, and he can't get it quite right, so he keeps throwing little tantrums and getting freaked out and all disturbed over it. But it's not long before you kind of realize what way this story is kind of going to go. At the time, he thinks his life is coming to an end by means of assassination. He's already told the rest of his Space Marine children that, you know, he doesn't want them to save him. He's kind of lamenting and he's, you know, regretting and he's torn with all this crazy guilt. So he's working through all this, and it's kind of a very strange daddy issues sort of story, you know. So what we're kind of dealing with here is flashbacks. The story's kind of told through a series of flashbacks of what he's done in the past, and what he's kind of accountable for in his own warped sense of justice and his own feelings of betrayal, and it just goes down this whole kind of line of blame and guilt and remorse and then back to blame. And there's a lot of tension and paranoia in the story. So in one of the earlier scenes, the crew of this ship pick up this casket. Obviously, early on, you should realize that the casket contains Konrad Curze, and you know the crew think they've picked up pay dirt because they're not quite sure what they picked up, but they've an idea that it's important and it's worth a lot of money. Quickly we're kind of drawn into this scenario where the whole story kind of goes like Alien, and you've got a small crew running around a small cramped ship trying to survive against basically this monster that if it finds them, it's going to kill them, it's going to tear them apart, and it's over for them. And it's just twisted and warped but funny. I mean, you're gonna find a strange sense of humor in this. Now, what sets Konrad Curze apart from other 40k stories, really, one of the reasons why I find that this is kind of different to what we'd normally read, is there's actually very little conflict in the book. Okay, there's a lot of personal conflict for Konrad Curze. There's a lot of personal conflict between himself and the Emperor and his brothers, but we don't have the usual typical story. There's no orcs, there's no demons, there's no monsters. You're not really seeing the war at large. You're not seeing aliens being shot or, you know, purged or anything like that. So the action in this particular book is actually quite laid back. The action's very intense. It's more the idea of what's happening than what's actually happening itself. So you're getting an idea of what Curze is trying to do. You're getting an idea of his sense of justice. You're getting an idea of his sense of retribution. You're getting an idea of how he uses fear as a tool to control people. You're seeing into his psyche, so you've kind of got an idea that he figures using fear, or killing a few hundred people will save a few thousand, killing a few thousand will save a few million, and that's where he kind of views he differs from his brothers. So you're really getting a picture of the man, or at least his own picture of himself. So you have an idea that, okay, this is what he thinks of himself, this is how he's justifying himself, and this is kind of what he's made of himself. But at the same time, what he's made of himself, he blames the Emperor on. So it's really kind of an information session where you kind of have to figure out what you actually want to believe or what you want to take from it. Because obviously you have to take into account that the character is clairvoyant, so he has the burden of knowledge on what could happen and what might happen. So he's got this whole precog kind of thing going on. So you have an idea that maybe he's right, maybe if he chooses to do one thing, then the other thing will happen. The thing is you'll also learn that he doesn't trust any of this. So he can never make the right decision, because he will always take the harsher action for fear that the good outcome might not happen. So really he starts to yammer on, and you kind of just realize that he's a bit crazy. Now where the book starts to falter a little bit is it can actually be a bit plodding at times. It does slow down. You're kind of getting a lot of the imagery. You're getting the kind of, he's dirty, but he's beautiful, but he's crazy, but he's not crazy, but he's a genius, but he likes the dark. And it kind of like gets a little boring, and you can see he's kind of going through a bit of an emo phase that he hasn't quite grown out of. So there's that too. But overall, it's a really enjoyable story. I definitely recommend read the book. It's really worth reading. I really enjoyed it. So, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you like what you've watched. Till next time, catch you later.